Your voice.
We need your vote.
Your concerns.
Families can't afford the things that they need in the state of Wisconsin and across the country.
From the tight grip on your wallet.
We understand that some folks are still feeling it. We get that.
The cost of housing is just out of control.
To that first home that's becoming a disappearing dream for too many.
There is no initial loan available for them to go out and get a mortgage.
And groceries taking more of our paychecks each week.
A lot of times they will go without food and make sure that the kids have it.
We're not saying there's not more work to be done.
More work, too, in fighting an ongoing epidemic.
It's only getting worse.
People need help. Wisconsinites are dying.
Folks think that it's just an inner city problem. It is not an inner city problem.
Dying of overdoses.
We have literally been breaking records as it relates to the amount of deaths that we have seen due to the opioid crisis.
But it's not just the pills.
There are too many people who have too easy access to guns.
So we took your questions to our nation's capital to help you decide.
Because the road to the White House runs through Wisconsin.
Good evening. The stakes are as high as they have ever been as we head to vote this fall. It'll be a rematch of 2020 playing out again in 2024.
President Joe Biden versus former President Donald Trump. So who's going to reside in the White House next year and run our country for the next 4?
You've heard this, but it could come down to Wisconsin, and that's why we are all here tonight.
What are you most concerned with when it comes to who you'll choose on the ballot? We want to hear your opinion tonight, which is why we brought out the FOX6 Instapoll. You can see the choices right there on your screen. So we ask you to join the conversation tonight by scanning that QR code or go to fox6now.com/poll. And we're going to be checking back in on those results throughout the show. But you see the 3 categories there: economy and housing, the opioid epidemic, and we're going to get back to those momentarily.
Yeah, we'll be checking in on how you're voting there. But let's bring in Fox 6 political reporter Jason Kelvey, because we could not go down this road without him.
Jason, you just got back from a trip to Washington, D.C. What was the biggest issue Wisconsin voters told you that they wanted to know about?
Again and again, when we talked to voters in Wisconsin, the number one issue they told us they wanted to hear about was the economy. So we brought those questions right to the White House as well as lawmakers, asking them exactly how they're going to handle that particular topic. Now, I was one of 7 reporters from across the country to join a reporters summit at the White House. I had the chance to question top presidential aides and cabinet secretaries. Now, first up, I asked about those worries that you have about your money. Now, take a look at the latest poll of Wisconsin voters. 35% say the economy is their most important issue. Then health care, moving down the list, immigration, followed by threats to democracy, housing affordability, and education. Then comes abortion and crime. So let's go deeper into your money. Inflation is the rise in prices over time. So, for example, if in 2014 you bought something for $100, today, because of inflation, the same thing would cost you $31 more. Inflation spiked in June 2022, topping 9%. Inflation has slowed down. So comparing February this year with February last year, federal data shows the average rise of prices was just over 3%. Now, for reference, the Federal Reserve aims for inflation of 2%. We spoke to people around Milwaukee about their number one worry. And again, they said it's the economy.
You buy food in there, you only get like 1 bag. A whole 1 bag.
Number one is economic issues. Getting college more affordable, healthcare more affordable, getting minimum wage protections and worker protections is probably number one.
Number one is the economy. My cost of groceries, my cost of gas, my cost of all my, bills, gas, electric, all that is astronomical compared to what it was 3 years ago.
I have to pay for like that and go to the doctor, which you don't realize when you're a child. And it's so expensive to be alive.
So, Jason, it's pretty clear that when you look at the polls and you listen to the voters that you spoke with down there in D.C., the people who live here in southeastern Wisconsin, they think money's tight.
Yeah, when you ask our lawmakers what to do about it, to get more money back in their wallets, what do they have to say about that?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. Republicans talked again and again about inflation and spent the federal government spending tons of money, billions and billions of dollars in these COVID relief packages that went through Congress. Now, for the White House, they pointed to things like the increasing number of jobs as well as the really low unemployment rates we're seeing, particularly here in Wisconsin. Take a listen to both sides of the aisle.
Families can't afford the things that they need in the state of Wisconsin and across the country. The inflation that President Biden has unleashed on the American people, things are 17% more expensive than they were when he took office.
We know that we've made a great deal of progress since the days of the pandemic, and I mentioned how difficult it was when the president took office. And what we're seeing is that we're seeing America continue to recover from that. A good example of that is the fact that 16 million Americans have went out and started small businesses.
It's not just the things that people watch all the time, like the price of gasoline. I mean, there's a lot of other items that are retail right now that are escalating.
All the newspapers a year and a half ago, they were all predicting that we would end there was no way that we could get out of 2023 without having a recession. And what we've seen, of course, is that because of the actions of this president, came in with a plan, focused on the economy, getting it back on track, we actually saw an economy grow over 3% last year.
So it's clear both sides have their take on this. As we go into the campaign, it's going to be how they sell that position to voters.
Right, and you're seeing the Biden administration, you see the president, the first lady, the vice president, all coming to Wisconsin in the last month and a half. It's really this key battleground state. When we look at Wisconsin, political forecasters, they call this state one of 5 or 6 toss-up states in the whole country, which means the votes here in Wisconsin really are going to be crucial to who wins the White House in the fall.
Without a doubt.
And when we talk about the economy, there's something we just can't skip over, and that's the current state of a key part of the American dream, owning your own home. And what's worse, many can't even afford a place to rent.
The United States Interagency Council on Homelessness says homelessness in the U.S. is an urgent public health issue right now. And in fact, they call it a humanitarian crisis.
The annual homeless assessment report says on a single night in 2023, roughly 653,000 people in the United States were experiencing homelessness.
Now, for perspective, that would be like all City of Milwaukee and City of Racine residents not having a place to sleep. That is the highest number of people reported as experiencing homelessness on a single night since reporting first started in 2007, Jason.
And adding to this whole problem of housing is the interest rates. They're going up. We're seeing rent prices also pulling more money out of your wallet. Now, the federal government says housing costs were up about 5% in February compared with a year earlier. Wisconsin rent statewide from 2017 to 2022 went up by 21%. Now, that's according to the new Wisconsin Policy Forum report. That means if rent was $1,000, it likely rose more than $200. Now, still, the researchers found income has actually kept the pace going here. Now, the report finds 50% of Milwaukee renters are spending at least 30% of their income on rent. Economists call them rent burdened. The conventional wisdom is people should not pay more than 30% of their income on housing. That makes it harder for people to save to buy their own home. So how about buying then? Well, the Wisconsin Realtors Association says the real problem for first-time home buyers is these mortgage rates, which are still slow to come down. What does that mean for your wallet? If you bought a $275,000 mortgage back in January of 2021, you'd pay about $1,100 a month. Now, for the same home now, just for the higher interest rate, you'd pay about $650 more every single month.
We used to pay around $600. Now we're paying over $1,000.
We've had a huge influx of individuals coming into our office, primarily because they can't afford to maintain the rent that they're paying.
So again, we brought these questions to members of Congress and the White House, top Biden administration officials on what they propose to fix the housing problems. The president now proposes a tax credit of $400 a month over the course of 2 years to help middle-class people buy a new home.
The best way to bring down the cost of housing is for us to build additional housing. Places like Milwaukee and Austin and communities throughout the country have already taken advantage of this.
We've got to get inflation under control. If you talk to the builders, they will tell you how their costs are rising. Another thing that would benefit is have more people going into construction jobs.
And this is something that is really hurting people. So we'll be talking more about this housing crisis as the show goes on.
And where interest rates go and what the Fed decides to do. They have another big decision coming up very shortly. Well, pills or powder, drugs don't discriminate when they claim the victims. Our roundtable guests are in the studio tonight to tell us firsthand what they are experiencing with drugs in Milwaukee.
Also, it's one of voters' top concerns this election year. We're bringing you that perspective on the opioid epidemic right from the front lines.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid up to 100 times more potent than morphine. It's also a major contributor to fatal and non-fatal overdoses in this country.
There's pharmaceutical fentanyl prescribed by doctors. Then there's illegally made fentanyl, which the CDC says is related to the most recent cases of fentanyl-related overdoses.
Jason, counties across southeastern Wisconsin have issued emergency alerts on overdose. How are they working?
Yeah, well, not good, Ted and Steph. It's a dose of reality, really. In 2021, the CDC says nearly 71,000 drug overdose deaths nationwide involved synthetic opioids like fentanyl. Now, that's enough people to fill the seats at American Family Field almost 2 times over. So let's zoom in on Wisconsin. You can see the deaths going up year after year. In 2022, overdoses killed an average of 5 people a day in Wisconsin. This spike in overdoses is being felt across the state.
I don't want people to forget that they lived, they are loved, and they are greatly missed.
This is a crisis that our nation is just exploding with.
We're seeing people die every single day.
Well, here with us tonight are people who have seen the impacts of the opioid epidemic from the front lines, and I should say on a daily basis.
Yeah, we have Milwaukee's Fire Chief Aaron Lipsky here with us, as well as Tahira Malik from Samad's house. We appreciate both of you being here. Chief, I'm going to start with you. You've been with the Milwaukee Fire Department for more than 25 years. How much worse has the deadly drug scene gotten since you first started back in 1997?
It got better from the cocaine and the crack epidemic that gripped our African-American neighborhoods and got very little attention at the time. It then recovered a little bit from that, and now this scourge has hit everywhere. It's a night and day difference as far as how wicked this is right now.
Your crews respond to calls every day. Tell us what you see at your place, Samad's house. How are you treating people who have encountered this?
So at Samad's house, first off, I'll say this is a sober living home for women and for women with children. Samad's house and our women, our ambassadors, we took a proactive approach after learning how to recover and relive our life after addiction. And so we go back out into the community to provide harm reduction resources. And we do that weekly with Milwaukee Overdose Response Initiative, Community Medical Services, and Street Angels, and Vivint Health, with a number of community collaborators. We look at the Milwaukee County Overdose Dashboard, and we focus and pop up in those neighborhoods that are being hit hardest by the overdose crisis. And on a weekly basis, we are servicing between 30 to 50 individuals, providing the Narcan training, providing the fentanyl testing strips, and then also giving the additional resources to make sure that you live healthy another day by providing the hygiene kits, providing food resources. So it's great to be able to partner with the fire chief and the Maury Project and all the other resources, with community resources, to provide this to our neighborhoods.
But Tahira, you're seeing on a firsthand basis how devastating this is to young families in our community.
Absolutely. Addiction is devastating. Because you lose your children, you lose your home, you lose employment due to addiction, and that in itself kind of sometimes keep people stagnant within addiction. And that addiction, those drugs are now being tainted by the fentanyl, by the xylazine, which compounds a normal, if there's a such thing called a normal drug overdose, it compounds that, because like Chief was saying, when we were dealing with the crack epidemic, a majority of African-American males were in that time utilizing the crack. But now they have tainted the crack with fentanyl. And what happens is that stimulant with that opioid is what's sending people into overdoses. And that's why African-American males are actually overdosing at a higher rate than any other ethnicity.
Chief, I'm going to let you add in. You're wondering, why are we talking fentanyl in a political show? Because 80% of people in a recent poll said it's a bigger issue to them than abortion rights, than what we're doing in Gaza, what we're doing in Ukraine. So let's get a take from politicians about their take on how to attack this problem.
and it's only getting worse. We feel that we have to have an all-hands-on-deck approach to fighting this epidemic, from precursor chemicals coming in from China to the cartels that are making pills in Mexico, and stopping those illicit drugs at the border so that they don't kill Wisconsinites.
When you talk to Homeland Security officials or to the Border Patrol, they know that there is direct connections between the opiates that are making their way across the border, specifically in the San Diego sector.
So this is obviously an issue. There is no question about that. People at home, they are concerned about it. The community's concerned about it. Chief, if funding was no issue, what would you be able to like to provide to the community to really just get through this and get past it?
We're providing part of it. We need more of it. And that is partnerships where we can address the very human concerns that bring a person to be gripped with addiction. That's part one, and those are services that Samad's House and other community partners can provide. We need more Narcan, and we need Narcan flooding the community right now. On top of all that, we need other harm reduction services. I need more folks to go out with the MORI program immediately post-overdose, try to get people into recovery. It's a very, very important, sensitive time. And I don't have enough bodies to send out and touch all of the overdoses on a daily basis.
Is Narcan something your average citizen should be carrying? Because you never know where you're going to be and experience it. I mean, that might be shocking for some to hear.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Okay.
I'm sure it is. More shocking is when you are helpless and you watch somebody die in front of you. Mm-hmm. This is everywhere. The Narcan is a lifesaver, and at this stage, the mission is to keep the person alive. That is a super low bar in 2024 in America, but that is what we're trying to do, is just keep people alive post-overdose.
Get the Narcan, know how to use it.
Yes.
To hear Malik from Samad's House, Chief Lipsky, we always appreciate it, and we appreciate the discussion because it certainly is an important one.
Absolutely.
Sorry it's so short, but we did start going down that road, and people do need to know more about it. We're going to take a quick break, come right back here on the road to the White House.
That's sad, all this gun violence.
It can happen to anybody's child. So to be able to know that that's so near to us in our community.
You got too many people running around there that shouldn't have guns.
We want the public to know you have a responsibility in this public safety, and we mean it.
We deserve to be protected.
A new year meant renewed hope for Milwaukee. Trends showed us that fewer people were killed, and overall violent crime was down in 2023.
Let's take a look, though, at the bigger picture here. Data from the Department of Justice shows overall violent crime across the state was down from 2021 to 2022. But the biggest offense year over year was aggravated assault.
Wisconsin law defines aggravated assault as an assault with a dangerous weapon or other means of force likely to produce death or grievous bodily harm. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University found that guns were the leading cause of death for kids and teens in 2022.
Jason Calvi is back with us now. And Jason, you have the numbers for where Milwaukee stands so far this year.
Yeah, well, homicides are trending down, but it was a deadly pandemic. Milwaukee set its record for homicides in 2020, then again in 2021, and also 2022, when Milwaukee police data shows 215 people were killed. That was 3 years of record-shattering homicides. Then things changed in 2023 when 171 were killed. Homicides that year were down 20%. And again, this year, homicides are down about 30% compared with the same time last year. We went to Washington, D.C. to see what the White House and Republicans say needs to happen next.
We went through this for almost 2 years where we had members of the opposite party that continued to tell us that, not as many police officers were needed. That was clearly a mistake. I mean, the show of less law enforcement, I think, has allowed crime to continue to rise.
For the first time, we saw a president that was looking at this not as just a crime challenge, but as something that would take a comprehensive approach, including public health strategies, investing in communities that are most impacted, while holding the gun industry accountable and advancing real regulations and common sense safeties.
So let's do a really quick fact check on what you just heard. First, on the number of cops mentioned by Republicans, Milwaukee's police budget has grown in recent years, though the number of officers dropped from what it was in 2019. That was through attrition, not replacing officers leaving the department. At that time, the city blamed budget problems. Now, state law requires Milwaukee not cut the number of officers. You heard the White House tout the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which sent billions of dollars for things like violence intervention, mental health counselors in schools, community community mental health, and the 988 suicide helpline. Senator Baldwin voted for that bill. Senator Johnson voted against it.
Jason, thanks. Now let's get back to our poll. When it comes to what you are most concerned about with the polls, here's how you're feeling so far since we started this show tonight.
And the economy and housing crisis is the clear winner when it comes to this. And I guess winner is probably the wrong word here, but most of you are concerned about this. 81% of you voting that this is the issue you're most concerned with over the opioid epidemic, as well as crime and gun violence. Now, make sure your vote has been heard tonight. FOX6now.com/poll. We're going to do a final check in on that Insta poll with final thoughts for this Road to the White House special.